Welcome to I Cook, You Measure. I'm your host, Jen Mueller, and the measurer today is an oversized human being, but it really helps with his job, right? Meet Abe Lucas, right tackle for the Seattle Seahawks. Abe, you're what, 6'6"?
7.
6'7".
Yes, the records are wrong.
The records are wrong. Well, we are setting the records straight. He is going to be the measurer today. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like breakfast food?
10.
Excellent. This is going to be perfect because our meal today, he has no idea what we're making, chilaquiles.
I've never heard of that, but I'll go with it.
Okay, but most importantly, I would think it's breakfast.
100%.
So we're gonna go with that. There's gonna be some eggs on top. It's gonna be super easy to pull together. You know, if you've watched previous episodes, we always cook with wine. Today is no exception. Now, I know some people, breakfast, wine, it doesn't really go together, but let's just say it's brunch or you're cooking and you're doing breakfast for dinner. So I have picked out a bottle of Albarino, which is a grape you would not normally find in Washington State. There's not a whole lot of wineries that make Albarino. I can see the look on your face is just kind of right here. Here's why we chose it. You're gonna sample it with our meal in just a little bit, but there's a little bit of acidity to it, which is gonna cut through the flavors that we're gonna put together. So, I'm not gonna put you on the spot and ask you to open this. Have you used one of these wine keys before?
I've seen it used by my mother.
Mom sounds like somebody I could get along with here.
Absolutely.
I am gonna have you pour though. If you would pour.
Is there etiquette to pouring?
No, not
No?
for this.
Okay.
No. I mean, if you're in a restaurant, sure, I guess. But who in here is following etiquette?
I don't know.
Just don't lick the bottle after you pour.
No, not
I
my
have
thing.
seen people do that.
Not my thing. Is that enough? Does that work?
That's perfect.
Awesome. I'm going off of what I've seen in movies, so.
Do you have any idea why you just poured it to that?
I actually don't know.
You poured it to the perfect spot, and what you poured it to was the largest surfaced area in the glass. So what we want to do is add some air because the wine's been in the bottle, so we want to add a little bit of air. So what you just did was give it the perfect amount of surface space to do that.
Wow.
Well done.
Already having success. I know about this twisty thing. I don't know the proper word for
the
it.
The twisty thing? Well, it's just a swirl.
Is that okay?
It's a swirl. It'd be like, do you have any moves that you'd put on a defensive lineman that would be a twisty thing?
As a last resort, maybe. Yeah.
That'd be great. Post-game interview. Hey, Abe, was that a last resort twisty thing that you did?
Probably 100% was.
Probably.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like the nose on that one. I do like the nose.
I'll agree with you.
Okay, perfect. Cheers. Let's do some cooking.
Let's do it.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
I like that. Just wait until we taste it with our meal. Okay, so this is going to be so easy. I don't know if you've seen tomatillos before.
They
Would
just
you
look
recognize?
like green tomatoes to
They
me.
do look like green tomatoes, which is why I have two that still have the husks on them, because this is how you would find them at a farmer's market or a grocery store.
Sure.
You just peel them off. Pops off pretty easy. Now, when you do that, there's just a little bit of, there's just like a little bit of like sticky.
Is it like wax coating or something?
Yeah, it's just like a little wax coating. So what we've done is we've already washed these. We are going to put these whole. There's about 10 of them in there in a boiling pot of water, but first I need you to get that pot of water to boil.
To boil. All right.
So
Should
it's
be
going to
easy
be
enough.
this one. And what I would do is put a pinch of salt in there as well.
Sure.
Yep, so you can take that. You can either use your
This
fingers
is
or
salt. Okay.
bit of salt.
I'm not going to use my fingers. I haven't washed them.
Well, it's technically a pinch of salt. Here, let's do this. Make sure this. Yep, you got
guessing
it.
that's
So
right? Okay.
I would actually, that's a power burner, so kick it on one more time and it's gonna give you even, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
Makes sense.
So we're gonna wait for that to boil. Once it comes to a boil, these tomatillos and this jalapeno go in there for 2 minutes.
Easy enough.
Easy enough. Then we're gonna blend it. It goes on the stove. We make eggs. It goes over chips. It's done.
Fantastic.
What do you cook in the kitchen?
Okay, so I grew up, well, I have a lot of siblings. we grew up on a lot of pasta. So spaghetti was really I remember my mom and dad, when we were kids, wanted to teach us how to cook something. Right, so I was like 9 or 10, and I didn't do the whole thing, obviously, but my choice was spaghetti. Mm-hmm.
Spaghetti with meatballs, spaghetti with sausage, just like...
meat sauce, I guess, would be the proper term for it. I don't know, but yeah, it's pretty simple, right? And you can make a lot of it and feed a lot of people, so it's easy enough.
How many siblings?
7.
And you are where on the spectrum of the 7?
Second oldest. I have an older sister, and then the rest are younger.
So is that helpful in getting them to do things around the house on your behalf, or is that annoying because they're there?
Well, I think it kind of falls into both categories, I would say. We were kids when we were younger, so we were unruly. Right?
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Are your siblings all your size?
Some are. My older sister's kind of short, and so it's kind of funny that it's her and me. I got a younger sister she's taller, and then my younger brother Michael is about 6'4". Andrew, the youngest brother, will be pretty tall as well, and then the rest are not average size, but above average height-wise, I would say.
So at what point did you get into sports? I would think it's natural, but you might not have had a choice.
Yeah, it was around kindergarten, I would say. I started playing soccer, just like I guess every kid kind of does, and I started playing football in 2nd grade. And then basketball as well, and just kind of went from there.
Did you ever have to show your birth certificate to prove how old you were?
I actually don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened if my parents were, coerced into that, but for the most part, I don't think so. I mean, it came pretty easy.
Have you always been on the offensive side of the ball?
No, I actually really want to play defense in college, but body type kind of said no to that. I was kind of just tall and skinny, so it was like, okay, once you fill out, you'll probably be an O-lineman.
Wait, they didn't even give you the option to be a defensive lineman? You could have been an edge rusher.
They did when I got an offer from Wyoming. It was my first offer, but they wanted me to be a defensive tackle. I didn't really want to do that, and then everywhere else was kind of like, you're an athlete, but that just really meant, okay, we're going to put you on the O-line eventually.
Wait a minute, is that what you're an athlete means?
Some guys get recruited as athletes just because it's like they play both sides of the ball pretty well, so it's like, okay, well, offense, yeah, that works, but also defense works, so we'll see when he gets here.
Well, also the high school that you went to be fair, I can understand why they might have done that, right? Yeah. Your high school is a powerhouse in the state of Washington. It's a smaller school, always incredible football, but your competition, it was just, it would have probably thrown guys for a loop.
Yeah, there was my senior year team, actually, if you look up my name and then our high school or anybody else's name who played on that team and then our high school's name, there was a big controversy about us playing against competition that was too bad and they're too big and they're running through all this competition, which wasn't our fault, but yeah, it was a whole thing. I don't know if I really get into that now because the story was just
the story was that. My point being, I understand why athlete is kind of the label that you got, right?
For sure.
Because recruiters are trying to figure out where do you actually fall against competition, right?
I think the majority consensus, though, is he'll be an offensive lineman. And I kind of knew that when I accepted my scholarship to Washington State. I knew I was going to be an O-lineman, so.
True or false, offensive lineman, scariest, most intimidating position group on a team?
I would say true, but it also depends on what team you look at, because I would say more, I don't know if I would say scariest, but I would say intimidating, I think is the better word for that, because there's offensive linemen that aren't scary at all, but they're really, really good, so they're intimidating, It's less about being scary, I think, than more about psychological warfare.
Wait a minute, psychological warfare, wait a minute. I was just going to point out, always my scariest position group. And they used to be opposite corners. So it used to be offensive linemen and then defensive linemen were opposite corners of your locker room, right?
Makes sense.
Two scariest position groups, entirely different reasons. Offensive linemen, correct me if I'm wrong, almost by definition are introverts. almost every single one of you, and I've done this for a long time, are more introverted than any other position group on the field.
Yeah.
Defensive linemen, the exact opposite, right?
Absolutely.
They're crazy. The edge rushers are crazy. So trying to match that energy on either side of the room. But as the extrovert, trying to like break into the introverts, that's
Yeah, it's difficult.
that's
task.
intimidating.
Yeah.
You guys are really intimidating.
Certainly.
Yeah. Let's check the water over here, see where we're at. We're getting pretty close to a boil, and what I'm going to have you do is drop these in, but I want you to be careful because I don't need you to hurt yourself. So I'm going to have you come on the other side. If you want to lower them in one at a time, our water is just about to a boil. So it's not a rolling boil yet, but you can see the bubbles on the bottom. When a recipe says add them when boiling, they're really talking about a rolling boil. That means that you're seeing the bubbles at the top of the water. Right now they're at the bottom, but I also know these aren't going to cook for very long, so to put them in there for an extra few seconds isn't going to be a big deal. But what I don't want is to have it splash back up on you and end up in pain.
Should be okay. There's worse things, right?
Well, you do have tats, so there's probably worse pain than that. That's not a great endorsement for my show, though.
I apologize.
So let's see, how many did I give you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's good. Is there one more in there?
Yeah, last one.
Go ahead. And then I'm just going to drop that in there.
Perfect.
And we're going to look at the clock. And we're going to, actually, let's do this. We got a timer for 2 minutes. Okay. While that's going, and let me do this. Why don't you, because I don't have a whole lot of measuring for you today.
Okay.
Since we're going to throw this all into the blender, you're not going to see it, but just cut open the middle of a tomatillo so you can see what we're working with there. Sure. You can just cut it in half.
Huh, that's interesting. Didn't expect that.
What do you mean you didn't expect?
I don't know what it looks
like. A tomato.
It does, but the seeds in the tomato are usually bigger, right? So
that's true.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just not used to it.
That's true. It's firmer than a tomato. You can eat it. It won't.
Smells spicy.
Tomatillo shouldn't have a whole lot of heat. Maybe a little bit of mild heat in there, but if you were to cook with it any other way, so you could like dice this up and make a tomato sauce with it if you wanted to.
Okay.
What I love about this recipe, and it is odd that we just threw the entire jalapeno in there, but it's all just going to get done by the blender, so we don't have to worry about it.
Sure.
So I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay. What I am going to have you do is give me a little bit of dice on the shallot.
Uh-oh.
Do we not feel confident in this?
No.
So what I would...
I'm not a big dicer per se.
I tell you what, get it...
I don't have experience with it. That's all.
Get it as close as you can. What I would do is take off the ends of that.
I was going to say, do I need to take the skin off at all?
Not necessarily the skin. Here, watch. If you put that down. So anytime you do an onion and they tell you to take off like the outside edge, it'll naturally kind of come off.
Peel off.
Like where that edge is, you know? Okay. So that is pretty even. This is going to go on the top. I don't know how you feel about onions. This is a milder version of an onion.
We'll see if it makes me cry.
So for years I wore contacts and I didn't cry because I had something that was preventing, the aroma from getting to my eye. Then I had LASIK and anytime I got onions, it looks like there's been a death in the family or something like that. It's just all over the place.
Yeah, I'm just waiting.
I don't think you're going to have a problem with that.
That's what I always say. It never works out for me.
I'm more worried about you just watching the knife in your fingers because I can't.
Okay, I can't get past this last
That's quite
piece.
all right.
Cool. And then just chop them up, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep, that's pretty easy.
You can tell I've done this before.
It looks like you're a pro.
I have done this before, but I like to think that I can do it as good as Gordon Ramsay, but no, absolutely not.
I wouldn't try to do it as fast as Gordon Ramsay.
Oh man, it's amazing.
What was the biggest mess you guys ever made in the kitchen growing up? I mean, there's 7 of you, so certainly something.
Well, we were never really all cooking together per se, But I used to, like my mom taught me how to make cookies in a pan essentially.
Yeah.
So it was like a brownie, but really it was like a chocolate chip cookie.
Yep.
And we never cleaned up the proper way, so my dad would always get really upset. Be like, Dad, we're cooking again. He'd be like, no, you never clean up. And he always had to clean up, so he was never really happy about it. But
he didn't even get to enjoy the cookie in a pan, did he?
Oh, no, it was gone. It was always gone the second it was made, essentially. But yeah, I did that. My sisters did that. Brothers did that. So yeah, a couple times a week, it was just
Cooking
dirty.
in a pan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there had to have been fights then over who got to lick the spoon in the batter?
Yes. I mean, it got to a point where we were all just kind of walking in and would grab it with our hands, though, which.
So then there's no cookie in a pan.
Exactly,
You've
it's
just
all
eaten
gone.
the batter.
Yeah. Did that with my mom. She would get upset. Would still do it, of course.
It is the best part. It is. Look at that dice.
Is that good?
Well done.
Awesome.
Well done. And we are good to go on that because guess what? I put it as an hour instead of 2 minutes. So 2 hours instead of 2 minutes. Whoops. Next time, actually ask Alexa or Siri to do that. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it, but here's what I am going to have you do. I'm going to move this over here. Let's move that wine out of the way.
Perfect.
I am going to. Okay, so we have tomatillos and our jalapeno. We're going to use the food processor. So just drop each one of those bad boys into the food processor.
Oh, 2 at once.
Your mom is going to be so impressed with you like this.
I hope so. Could make her proud.
What's the favorite thing your mom makes?
She had this chicken casserole dish that she would make when I was a kid. And the thing about us growing up is that everybody else was a picky eater except for me. So whenever she would make that, it was like Christmas because nobody else ate it and it was just all mine.
So everybody else goes hungry at dinner, but you get to eat however much you want.
It was amazing. I always loved it. Like I tell you, some of my siblings, I don't know how they survived some of those nights because they just wouldn't eat. Like I have a sister who was just like, I am not eating this. And she would just go to bed. And then the next night she would say, I'm not eating this either. And then I was like, what did you eat growing up? I never saw her eat.
At my house, now my mom is a great cook. She still cooks. She also makes dessert before she makes dinner. So that was a bonus in my house. But you did not get to say you didn't like anything. And the first time you said, I don't like that, my father would say, thank you for volunteering to have seconds of your mother's cooking. There was only 2 times I ever tried to outlast. He was like, you will sit there until your plate is clean, right? There was only 2 times I tried to test him on that. And one time I legit sat there until 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Red beans and rice. I did not like that. We grew up in the South. I did not like red beans and rice. Did not like baked beans either.
It's like a staple.
I know. Now I love red beans and rice. Baked beans I could still give or take. I know.
That's fair.
What I learned was Dad is not gonna change his mind.
Sure.
He's not gonna change his mind. Only one more thing needs to go in there really fast.
All right.
I lied. 2 things are gonna go in there. Okay, so this is a little bit of sugar. So if you would put, I'm gonna have you put 1 tablespoon of sugar in there. Perfect. I'm gonna move that out of the way. And I'm gonna have you put some of this. Now, the original recipe that I found in the Seattle Times calls for stems only. I would take about half of that, I'd put it in there, we're gonna put the lid on it, and it's gonna swirl around. So
Okay,
however much cilantro you would like in there.
Looks about half, yeah.
I think that looks good.
Cool.
And this really is kind of like a personal preference thing. I mean, at the end of the day, if you prefer more or less, you can do that. All right, so this goes on here. We should be on. My I'll let you hold that. We want it to be smooth, not chunky. So essentially what we're making is salsa.
Okay.
Right? But there's not a whole lot of heat in this salsa.
Sure.
So let's take a look. You can open up the top and take a look and just kind of see what we're looking at. Yes, no?
Maybe a little bit more.
Go ahead.
From my obviously
From
professional.
your expert opinion. Go ahead. Perfect.
Should be about right.
Yep. Okay, so let's let that
Want to keep the lid on?
sit. Oh, you can take the lid off.
Okay.
Here's what we're gonna do now. This is the best part and the easiest part.
Fantastic.
Okay, do you know how to cook eggs?
In my own way, yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, okay, so the way I was taught growing up by my dad, who was taught by his mom, you crack an egg, you put it in a bowl, right? And if you're scrambling, there's like that little, I don't know what the white part is, but you scoop that out and throw it like down the sink.
Okay.
Don't really know the reason why for that, but grandma said it, so it's gotta be true.
Okay, yes.
The way I started doing it in college when I was just eating it for protein, I would just heat the skillet up and I just crack eggs straight into the pan.
Yeah.
Right, and so they would look like they were being fried and then I would just mix them up and then add salt or whatever, and that was it.
Okay. Well, you can cook the eggs however you want. Do you ever do eggs like over easy, over medium, or is it always scrambled?
It's usually always scrambled with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can do that. I tell you what, while I grab the cooking spray, why don't you take that off and let's just put this right in the bowl. Okay, so
Am I twisting?
Sorry, you twist it? Yeah.
Okay.
And when you do that, here I'm gonna tip it.
Okay.
Go ahead. It's a little bit like, pouring beer.
Yeah, totally.
So what's gonna happen is that's gonna splash off.
All good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect. We're just gonna put this on the stove on low just to simmer. We'll fire that up. There's some eggs in the bowl behind you.
Here we go.
So however you would like to do your eggs, you can mix them in the bowl, you can mix them in the pan, however you would like to do this. Do you do butter? Do you do cooking spray?
Usually I do butter.
Okay.
That's my preference.
I can do that.
I'm trying to think.
I also have more eggs if we need more.
Sure,
eggs.
sure.
Just cast that aside. Okay, very good. You take over. I'm going to take this wine. This is just going to sit there.
Do you have a butter knife by chance?
I do have a butter knife.
And a spatula of some kind, or fork.
You mean you don't know where everything is in my kitchen?
I do not.
This,
Right
I have
here.
other.
This is perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is so great. I tell you what.
There's a method to my madness, I promise.
I am all for it. What else did you make in college? Like, did you have a dorm room that had a kitchen to it, or I had to do microwave cooking in college.
Yeah, I had a little, like, Instapot, crock pot kind of thing that my mom had gotten me. And then they had a marketplace that would sell those bags of, like, I don't remember the brand, but like it's the Idahoan potatoes that are ready in like 30 seconds, and they're like $1, right? So I would do that, and then they had like Campbell's soup. So I would just do that and then pour that over that. And that was just like what I did most of the time, and then top ramen. That's just when I was hungry though, on like the weekends or whatever, just because I didn't like to spend money, so.
I hear you. Besides that, in college, you don't have a whole lot of money to spend.
Yeah, when I moved, that was just in the dorms. When I moved out of the house, or out into a house, I was a big fan of barbecue chicken and white rice.
Oh?
Yeah, and I would bake it. I would bake barbecue chicken and white rice, because we didn't have a grill or anything, so.
My roommate and I, cafeteria, when we went to school, wasn't open on Sundays after like 2.
Sure, yeah.
So Sunday nights, if you did not go to Mr. Gaddy's all-you-can-eat pizza buffet.
Uh-oh. Mind if I wipe my hands on this? Okay.
You made bean burritos in the dorm room.
Just beans?
What you made. Yeah, beans, a little cheese on the top. That works. And then dessert, wait for it, we had a jar of frosting and Teddy Grahams.
I would probably do that.
I mean,
it's respectable.
Sometimes some Jell-O, but you know.
Hey, if it works, it works.
It was a real college staple. It was.
I didn't eat dessert for the later half of my youth growing up. My parents, like, when my mom started having more kids, they stopped buying dessert. So it became more of like a financing, which was fine, because it was just like, okay, that was my first lesson of you can't get everything you want, because I was like, where's the ice cream? And it was just wasn't there. They're like, no, we're not doing that anymore. I was like, okay.
Oh, but then it became a real big treat.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just to be, okay. Only time we got it was on birthdays. I was fine.
Oh, well, that's nice. Meanwhile, so my mom came from a large family, same sort of thing. So when it was possible for, you know, like my parents get married,
sure.
They finally get to a point where there's a little money. We always had 2 half-gallons of ice cream. We had 2 candy jars. We had 2 cookie jars.
Yeah.
Mom made like pie and cake. It's amazing that I didn't turn out to be an offensive lineman. It's really what. But then you get to college, it's like, yeah, I've already had this stuff. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It's actually not a big deal to me, but.
Yeah. My mom's cookies at lunch were about that big. It was the best. It was what I look forward to. And all my classmates, like in middle school, were always like, "Hey, let's trade." I was like, "Nope."
No, we're not trading.
This is mom's work, so no.
At my house, I don't know where mom came up with this. A serving of cookies at my house growing up. Listen to this, kids. 5 cookies.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know where mom came up with this.
A serving.
I love it.
Interesting.
It was a serving. So if you wanted Oreos, keep in mind this is after dinner, right before you go to bed.
I'd say these are about done.
I think that looks great.
Cool.
Yeah, if you wanted like Oreos before bed, 5.
Lucky you. I've been lucky to get maybe 1 or 2.
So again, it's amazing. I am not an offensive lineman.
Well, I am, so.
Okay, we are almost done with this meal. That is how quick and easy this is. All I need for you to do is add just a little bit of mozzarella into our verde sauce.
Okay.
So it says 3 ounces. I would say this, like sprinkle or grab, grab a little bit. It's probably gonna be, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you 1/3 of a cup, and that's not even gonna mean anything. We're gonna let that like get in there. Yeah, I'd put a little more in there. I know it seems weird, but it's actually gonna meld all those flavors together just a little bit.
That's where the salt
And we
comes
are
from,
like
right?
so close to plating, it's unreal.
Cool.
What I would like for you to do, if you just want to, here, actually stir this bad boy, but try it and see if you like it and see if we need some salt and pepper.
Okay, try before or after the stir?
Try a little bit before.
Okay. I do, yeah. I do like it. Oh yeah, it's
Do we need some
fantastic.
salt and pepper?
I think the salt will come from the cheese.
And the chips we're gonna put it on. That's
go.
a good call.
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay actually taught me that, so.
That is a great point, because I haven't tasted it yet, so I didn't know. That's got some good fresh flavor to it.
It does.
Ooh, and that jalapeno actually has
That's
kick
the
to
kick,
it.
yep.
I get so disappointed when I put a jalapeno on something, because I like spicy.
Yeah.
And then there's no spice to it, because you know it's hit or miss with
Yeah.
this.
Are you a high tolerance spice person?
Yes.
I'm pretty low, but I like spice too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that this
No, this is fine.
gonna
This is
be
perfect,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, you ready to plate this bad boy?
Yes, I am.
Okay. If you were being super authentic and making a gigantic mess, you would fry your own tortillas, which to me seems like overkill when all I need is a bag of chips.
There you go. Done for you.
So here we go. I'm gonna do a little bit of this. Not only is breakfast my favorite like food, anything with like Tex-Mex breakfast is my ultimate favorite food.
Yeah.
So this hits everything to me. So here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna put some of that on each of these, and then you're gonna top it with some eggs.
Okay.
We'll put the shallots on top, and then we're done. Would you like a ladle
Sure.
instead of a spoon?
Yeah, that'll work. Do you like a lot or a little, or medium?
It's kind of medium, because what you like is, like, it gets a little soggy and a little crisp
Sure,
and
that
a
makes
little,
sense.
you know, there's some texture in it, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm a very, I like a lot of sauce, so I just have to ask, you know.
Yeah, no. You do whatever you like on that. But
Perfect.
yeah, I kind of load it up because you want, like,
No, it makes sense.
you want all the flavors to it. I will also say that I would generally do eggs over medium for this. Not your thing. You can do anything you want to, but if you're making this at home and you prefer a runny yolk, that yolk will kind of mix in there really nicely, and you'll have
You know better
all
than
the
me.
flavors.
You know better than
But
I.
it's a personal preference.
For sure.
So if scrambled eggs are your favorite, then scrambled eggs is what works.
Yeah. Oops.
It's a little bit like drinking wine, right? Like, you do what you like.
For sure. First time for everything, right?
There's a first time for everything, but not everybody likes runny yolked eggs. It really grosses some people out.
I just like food, so I don't really discriminate.
You are to food what I am to wine.
It's perfect.
Equal opportunity.
Don't discriminate, just eat.
That's right. If it's put on the table, you eat.
Should be good, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would put, you don't have to use all of the shallot. I just
Sure.
put like a little bit of shallot on each one. A little pepper if you wanted some pepper. I could have also mixed the shallot into the
That's another thing.
chilaquiles. There you go.
Cool.
Do you want pepper on top?
Do you want pepper on top?
Well, I think it looks pretty when there's pepper
Perfect,
on top.
let's go for it.
So crank it, yep.
Should be good, yeah.
There you go.
Awesome, awesome.
Thank you. Okay, moment of truth.
Moment of truth.
Here's our chilaquiles.
It's pretty good.
Oh, I like those flavors.
I do, I like it.
That is most excellent.
That is.
See, there you go.
fantastic.
Easy brunch to make. Lunch, brunch, dinner, and if you're thinking ahead, that verde sauce would freeze. So you could make an extra batch,
That is true.
freeze it, and pull it out whenever you want to.
Amazing.
And now that you have the flavors,
Can't forget
of your
about
wine.
that.
Oh wait, that's mine. Nope. Uh-oh. This one has, unless you were wearing,
Mine's
Chapstick.
probably the one that had, no, okay, there you go. You got it. Mine's probably the one with more in it.
I refilled your glass.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Just while I wasn't looking.
What do we think? We like it?
I do.
And you could put even more sauce on it.
Of course.
And then you get like some,
Would you ever put like sausage in this?
yes, chorizo,
Chorizo.
would be perfect in this. Absolutely.
There you go. It's great. I love it.
Even some black beans on the side.
Even better.
We just put together a whole meal. And we just cooked a whole meal. Came together in, I don't know, before you even knew that you were done
Yeah.
or cooking.
Yeah. That's true.
It is one of my favorite dishes, and it is one of my favorite things to be able to cook with people and enjoy meals with people. But I know that that is not always possible. For as much of a privilege it is for me, it is a hardship for others, which is why for every episode of I Cook, You Measure, a donation is being made to a nonprofit helping to end food insecurity in our communities. And for that, I think we are just about out of time.
Fantastic.
Thanks to Abe for doing all the heavy lifting and the hard work today. We'll see you next time on a new edition of I Cook, You Measure. We had to set up a special camera shot because you're larger than most.
Yeah, when you said switch sides, I was like, makes sense. Want to be behind the vent.
Also, it's still going to be an awkward height, but you probably deal with that everywhere you go.
Every single day.
I've always wanted to be tall, but maybe I don't.
I don't mind it, but I don't have a choice, right? So.
I Cook, You Measure is presented by Ascend Hospitality Group, a Black and female-led independent restaurant group based in Bellevue, Washington. The collection of concepts proudly employs more than 700 people in Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Arizona. Committed to elevating the communities it serves, AHG invests wholly in both its team members and its guests to take service to the next level. Learn more at ascendhg.com.